Hey, everyone. Hello. Uh-oh. I open the show the exact same way each time. I say, hey, everyone. Hi. Hello. And this time I decided there was no need to say hi. You know, we've known each other a long time. Today I felt like it was more of a hey, everyone. Hello kind of day. And that's how I still feel. Goodbye. Hi. You're not needed here. Anyway, hello. Hi. Welcome to the show. We're going to bring in my guest in a moment. She and I are already fast friends, but first I must chat with producer Tony Paxton, find out how he's doing. He's sitting in a different room of his house or a different corner of the same room of his house, and it's throwing me off. Hello. How's it going?
Hello. It's going okay. Yeah, I'm in a different room. I didn't quite have to do this yet, but I have a friend coming to stay here, and he's going to be here for a few weeks. So I'm probably going to be in this room a lot for the next several shows. Just because I don't want to be sitting out in my living room if he's hanging out here and doing the show out there. So, who
is this friend? What is this room? I'm going to need more. This looks like your music room.
It's actually my bedroom, but slash office. Even though I have a spare room. For some reason, I tried to work in there. I don't like working in that room. So yeah, this is that, and this is my friend Zach. He stayed here before, and I think I recorded in this room the last time he was here.
I think so. Yeah.
Musician friend of mine comes out here for musician work sometimes, and yeah, that's about it. Nothing that thrilling to report. But I did, this is unrelated. I had a gross realization the other day, though, that I wanted to share. I was waiting to tell you until the show. I've been working for you for a while now. What is it, over 3 years, I think? And
it feels like longer.
I know, right? Because way more than twice as long has been Zoom.
Oh, that's really awful.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's truly terrible. And I had that realization. I was like, oh, man, that, yeah, because I need, I've been very vocal about how much I miss in-person recordings. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, when I had that realization, I'm like, oh, that's, I don't like it.
Yeah. Owen, second child, just turned 3. And I was realizing that he had just turned 1 when this whole thing started. He learned to walk during the pandemic. It's just weird how much of our lives have been this way. But doesn't it feel like we're at I know it feels scary to actually cling to this. So I say this in I'm not holding on to it tightly, but doesn't it feel like the tail end of it?
Yeah, I've been having that feeling. I don't want to jinx anything, but it's feeling the most normal-ish that it's felt in a while. I feel like maybe even more than that little window that pre-Delta window we had last summer. It's even kind of feeling a little beyond that. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we stay this way.
I mean, and I think because we discussed on the show, it was on the show that you offered to pay me to go back to in-person, right? Yep. So since the listeners have been part of that journey, they should know that we have an episode on the calendar for April 15th in person. And when you offered to pay me, I said, how much? And you said, we discuss it off air, which we have. Can we share with them the figure that you offered me? And I didn't even negotiate. And because I'm a woman, I didn't even negotiate. I just accepted the first offer, even though I probably should have pushed back.
Yeah,
can we tell them?
Because I wanted you to know I'm serious, so I told you I'll pay you $40,000 per episode.
Now, I know I probably could have gotten more because that was your first offer, but I just said fine. I said yes to the first offer because I got nervous and I was like, what if I push for more and then the offer goes away? So... And look, it's not my business, but I don't understand how that is fiscally. I don't understand how that, again, it's your business, but I don't understand how that is like financially prudent for you to be paying me $40,000 to produce, to edit, or to engineer the show and stuff. But if whatever, It's your business.
Isn't being happy more important than money?
You can't put a price on it.
Exactly.
So I look forward to that.
I look forward to being broke.
Yeah, I mean, probably what? Like, I figure one show, right? Maybe two?
Oh, maybe like a couple minutes into that first show, yeah.
Alison, Rosen, Alison's your new best friend.
So I am very excited to bring our guest on. She is a Los Angeles, and before that, a New York institution. And I don't know if you know this about me, Tony, but I used to live in New York. It's an ongoing thing that I never bring it up. You know, people wish I would talk about it more, but that's true. I did live in New York for many years. She not only is she an institution, but she created a show that is a Los Angeles institution called UnCabaret. And now she has released an audiobook featuring conversations with many luminaries, and it is called So You Need to Decide. And it is all about decision making, which is something that is right up my alley, because if you've listened to me for any amount of time, you know that I can really, really, really overthink a decision. Please put your hands together for Beth Lapides. Hello, welcome.
Hi, hello, or hello, hi, or whichever direction you like it to go.
It can be, hey, hello, hi.
Hey, hello, hi.
What do you think of Tony paying me $40,000 to do the show in person? It seems
I feel good about it. Solid number.
Okay. Okay. Good. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and be your new best friend.
Me too.
Yeah.
So what is your decision? I mean, excuse me. I bet you didn't know that I was going to push you to make a decision so quickly. Yeah. No, what's your relationship with decision making is what I meant to say.
I'm very decisive in general, but like most of us, I think I have decision exhaustion. It's a real thing. And many of us suffering from it. Partly we live, in a world, the devices have caused decision exhaustion, constantly deciding to scroll or not scroll, put it down, don't put it down, which app, the level of decisions is so accelerated because of the devices. And then, layer on top of that, the pandemic, which is to go out, for a while it was super clear. I think people, it was so weird because we were super stressed out about, is it the end of the world? Mm-hmm. And, are we all going to die? I mean, that was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad. But then there was a certain relaxation to you're just home.
Right.
I know that a lot of people haven't been home enough in a long time, and there was a nesting and certain getting to know. And so, but then as soon as we left that and it was like, should I go out? Shouldn't I go out? Do I need a mask? Don't I need a mask? And it turned into all this gray area. So on top of all the other life decisions that we have to make, were these others. So like everyone, there's a certain exhaustion factor. I can be I can go both ways. I'm an overthinker for sure in every area. I like to think of myself as like a reformed know-it-all. I used to really know everything. And that was exhausting. And letting go of that and being willing to be like, I don't know. Like actually being willing to not know has helped me get out of ambivalence. Because there's sometimes when you have to the better I get at not knowing, the better my decision making gets. Because when you just go, I'm not sure yet, and I'm going to still collect information, you're not like constantly going, I know this, it's this, no, it's that, it's this, no, it's that. And you're just like, I'm not sure yet. Mm-hmm. I'm still thinking about it. There's all these phrases that you can say that are like, maybe this is this. I'm not sure. I'm thinking about it, Anyway, I have been known to be overly decisive as well.
But what made you decide to delve into the topic of decision making? Yeah.
Yes. Partly it was, I was very attracted to the audiobook format. I really, I love writing, but I also love performing. It's sort of that balance of writing and the part of the conversations are sort of performative and, on stage conversations, recorded conversations, and then the I knew I was going to get to write my story part, and then I knew that would also be performed. And so it was a balance of my writer, getting to write and getting to perform. Stand up is that, but UnCab is so sort of, I'm always writing new sets. So every time I'm hosting it, it's I'm always in the now. And so I was really wanting something that was a little more reflective and could go back and I could really sort of fine tune. And this was this new form. And I'm also very attracted to new. Is it new? Is it a new form? Well, I guess I'll try it. I think, on an internet, website, right. I did a radio show when there was first like live streaming. I'm always like I want to try it. Mm-hmm. And, so I was looking for what would be good conversations. And I also really wanted to dive into myself. And it was 2019 and the election was in the offing. And it's always like decision 2020, decision 20.
Yeah.
That word decision was really out there. And I found myself just really pulled towards the word. And I thought it would make I thought people there would be a lot of stories. I mean, one thing about doing UnCabaret all these years, as you know, it's, a story. It's not a storytelling show, but it's a comedy show that has a ton of stories in it. So I've sort of gotten a sense of over these years, what kinds of things people have good stories on. Mm-hmm. And I just knew decision making, there would be, I divided the book into chapters and there was, family and love and spirituality, moving,
quitting
and work. And I just knew in all these areas, people will have made decisions that were stories.
Mm-hmm. And
so that.
Yeah. And then, so how did you actually go about, like, did you talk with the contributors ahead of time about their stories, or did you sit down with them and interview them and then sort of decide who was and how you were going to put it together? I
didn't talk to people ahead of time. Most people I knew, and if not, I think there was only a couple of people I hadn't met before. Mm-hmm. I researched a little bit. I didn't talk to them before because it wasn't live. I mean, we were recording. You record long and you edit. You know what I mean? It wasn't like the book isn't formatted with like, a chapter on, Bob Odenkirk, a chapter on Baron Vaughn, a chapter, it's because it's subject matter. I knew we were going to cut and paste and quilt. I like to think of it as a quilt mm-hmm. it together. So, we didn't have to, I let them know it's a book about decision making. Here's the chapters. Why didn't you give it a little thought before we talk? Uh-huh. And then I don't want to spoil it. I mean, I think I wanted the freshness of conversations that were happening in the moment. I wanted to be hearing it fresh. So I would have questions that were, I didn't want people to work it out too much because mm-hmm. People know their best stories in their heart, mm-hmm. So it's not like, I didn't want to overly work it out.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. So this is a tangent, but now talking like host to host,
yes.
Something that happens to me, and I've run this by other interviewers to find out if it ever happens to them, and no one else. And I always expect they'll be like, oh yes, and here's what I do when that happens. But I've never run into anyone where it's happened to them. But if I'm interviewing someone uh-huh. Who has written a book and mm-hmm. And I've read the entire thing covered, because I always try to read someone's book ahead of time. But if they've written a memoir and I've read it cover to cover, like the night before, I often find the next day when I'm sitting with them, I get stymied because any question I can think to ask, I already know the answer to. And I don't want them to be like, yeah, that was on page 242 or whatever, But then I have to remind myself, but the audience doesn't know any of that detail. And I'm in this weird space where I don't know how to negotiate that. What made me think of that is because you said like you want it to all be new to you,
Yes. Well, okay, that's a great question.
I'm glad you thought that was a question, because that to me felt like I just like barfed a bunch of info at you.
Well, it was an idea that was
conversational.
Yeah. I mean, I always think, you're like saying you're the opposite of Larry King. Larry King was, famous for, he just never read anything. He's just like, so you wrote a book.
Right. Like Jiminy Glick.
Yeah. But, I sometimes, I think you can be over prepared for a conversation. And, it's like, well, I was researching it and I saw that like when you were 5, and then the person will be like, I know this happens to me too. People will be like, I read this thing about you. And, when you went to elementary school, it's like, I don't remember saying that. I don't even know what you're talking about. And so sometimes, you can always say, well, what was the process of writing? You can always go to what you just did with me. Like, what was the process? Because the process isn't in the product. And that's what we get to do in these conversations that are sort of, peeks behind the scenes. And people don't always want to say the same thing. Sometimes you have to, I find like you try to suss out the stuff that people want to tell over and over again. There are these sort of stories that are so inside of us that like, no matter how many times you tell them, they're fresh every time. And then there's some stuff you're like, I kind of covered that. You know what I mean? I did that as much as I want to do.
Right. In the audiobook, you talk a bit about how you get asked all the time about developing UnCabaret. And by the way, in your intro, I forgot to mention that you are referred to as like the godmother of alternative comedy.
Yeah.
Which is, that's quite
yes. I mean,
congratulations. That's amazing.
It's fun to be a godmother. It's almost like being supernatural, right?
That's, I mean, you're credited kind of with like creating alternative comedy. So kudos. That's awesome. But you're asked to tell that story all the time.
Yes.
But that you do enjoy telling that story.
Yes.
Which is good for me because I am going to ask you to tell that story. If you actually enjoy telling it.
I do, because it's like, there aren't that many giant light bulb moments in your life. I don't know about you. I haven't, I get them all the time. I had a friend that used to call it, the woman who directed our Comedy Central show, she used to call it like an epiphany pillow moment. Like she wanted to quilt it on a pillow. And what I learned in this book is what I came to sort of was I have this one light bulb moment that I tell that I will share with you and, you and all your best friends. But then what I really understood about the decision-making process, we're familiar with Malcolm Gladwell's, it's the moment, you saw this one blink moment. But there's this whole, time period. Is it a year? Is it your whole life before that moment that I think of as the stare? You stare and you stare and you stare and you stare. And so, okay, fine. You finally blink. It seems instantaneous, but you've taken in all this information beforehand. So I often will tell the story of, being at the Women's Building, which was a small art space in downtown Los Angeles where Judy Chicago famously did the dinner party. And I was getting ready to go on tour. It was a show that I'd been doing and I was kind of retooling it. And it was one of those nights where the audience just thought it was a little funnier than it was. It was just like, you don't want to say it's anyway, of course, they think it's funnier. You make it funnier. It's a great thing. I'm not, but then afterwards I was like, when was the last time you laughed? Cause it's not quite as funny as you thought it was. Like, oh, we don't laugh. We're women and we're artists and we're lesbians. And if we go to comedy clubs, they make fun of us. And that was the light bulb moment. I was like, oh, when I get back from tour, I'm going to make you a show. It's going to be unhomophobic, unxenophobic, unmisogynist. It'll be UnCabaret. And I really don't know where it came from, that particular, way of saying it. And I'm not a cabaret girl. I didn't work in cabarets. I worked in nightclubs. I worked in theaters. I worked in performance art spaces. I mean, maybe I did a cabaret, but it's not like I'd been going around cabarets and it wasn't like part of my lingo or anything. And, but there it came. And then I I went with it. But then when I look back, it's like I had been, you trace it back and it's like what had been happening to put me in that moment where I would say that. I mean, I was so frustrated as a comedian in Los Angeles, and it had kind of come to a head at the Comedy Store. I was following Andrew Dice Clay one night and just, he's doing his usual, misogynistic, thing. And I'm standing there hating him and hating the audience for laughing at him and hating myself for hating the audience. And I just froze. I mean, I'm just not somebody, you see all these comedians are so good with hate. They know just what to do with it. They get onto a hate rant and they're just like hilarious. I'm not that girl. And it makes me so uncomfortable and I froze. Now I think I'm just, so many years later in my performance skills, I obviously would be more able. But at that time I was still a little, young and I didn't know what to do. And I just thought there's gotta be a better way. That sentence started running through my head like just one, one of those red lettered things, it's gotta be a better way. It's gotta be a better way. It's gotta be a better way. And that was that. And then I started thinking about what would that better way be? And why doesn't somebody, from there I was sort of like, why doesn't somebody do something about this? And then there was another night at another club and it just had been just one of those wretched nights. And I was dragging myself home thinking, why does it have to be this way? It shouldn't be this way. And I remembered that when I was 5, I was in the hospital with a blood disease. And I felt fine and I was mobile anyway, but it was a blood disease. And I'm sitting in the hallway one day and I was looking at the kids playing in, the room. And they were playing doctor. And Alison, I just thought, why can't we play something else? I mean, we're in the hospital. Why can't we play house or astronaut or anything, really, school? And I realized at that moment, like I hadn't suggested another game. So I was like, oh, well, you were 5 and you were 6, so no blame. But now you're a grown up. And like, if you don't like the way it is, probably you're going to have to change it. So, but then I still didn't know what it was. So I had all that in me and tons of other stuff. And when, this women's building thing happened. So that was the beginning. I think of that as sort of the insemination and then blah, blah, blah.
And what year was that you became frustrated?
That was like the late 80s.
Okay. And were there other comedians that were also at the store, the Improv or whatever, like the hot spots were in like traditional comedy in LA at that point that you saw also being frustrated?
Everybody was frustrated because it was all like tight tens. I mean, I don't know everybody. That's that's not true. But there were certainly others and there were, so it was easy to book because, it was like, oh, it's a different space. You don't have to be in a comedy club. But that even was just like, I didn't know what it was. It was just different. And then when that run ended and we went to a space called Highways Performance Space and, it was just me and Taylor Negron and Judy Toll for a late night Saturday night run there. And that really started to form what UnCabaret was going to be. A combination of confession. Judy was so great at you would have loved her. You two would have really gotten along. She was so confessional. She really was everybody's best friend. I mean, every single person, when she died, there were thousands of people at her funeral and everyone was like, Judy was my best friend. I mean, we were best friends. I mean, really, like everyone thought they were her best friend. And then Taylor was so sort of dada and very gray area in a lot of his life. Anyway, there were big ideas. There was storytelling. There was confession. There was sort of poeticness. There was politics. And it really started to form what it was going to be. And then I ended that to do my campaign to make First Lady an elected position. Whole other conversation. And then when Jean-Pierre Beccaro opened up Luna Park, he invited me to do something. And I was like, this UnCabaret thing, this is what I want to do. So when we really landed at Luna Park, and it was me and Judy and Taylor to start with, and I started bringing in other people, there was a huge frustration in the comedy clubs of, somebody like Dana Gould. I mean, who's just got so much material and is so prolific. And, is getting these spots to do. Anyway, so yeah, all sorts of people. And then Judy had been really doing the groundlings. And so she started, introducing me to a bunch of people who weren't really stand-ups anyway, but were funny and had stories. And that was like Julia Sweeney and Tim Bagley, Kathy Griffin. There's Mike McDonald. We're all groundlings. There's a couple of others too, I think. And Janine and then came in and she knew Bob and David and blah, blah, blah. And it just sort of formed organically then. But then my instruction to people was, do the material that your head is going to explode if you don't do this material, because everybody was doing these things in clubs that was like trying to get their late night set, which would get their holding deal so they could get their sitcom. Everything was a fucking showcase for something else. And it just drove me, from New York. I was like, this is crazy. But then of course I was like, everybody kept getting deals. And I was like, why aren't I getting a deal? Well, because you think it's crazy. That's why.
I very much relate to that thing of like, why am I not getting this thing that I also clearly like have very mixed feelings about that I'm not in touch with? That is like only in the last, I feel like few months has that realization about certain things come to the surface. But anyway,
that's a lot of growth. Then you got a growth spurt.
Thank you. So UnCabaret began to take the form of people doing material, and the requirement was that it's new material, right? But you would be in the back and you would interrupt them and ask questions. Yes,
and that's how it reads. But really, what happened is, so I'm saying, do the material, your head's going to explode, and meanwhile, trying to get an audience, because I would tell people about it and they'd go, stand up. I hate stand up. It's so horrible. And I go, no, it's not that kind of stand up. So slowly, we were starting to get people to come, and then actually people would love it and they'd bring their friends the next week. It was every Sunday. So then I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot of the same people here. This is like, you really can't do the same thing. I mean, as much as I thought before, maybe you can't, but like you really have to do new material every time. I definitely did. And then, most people weren't on every week, but still, I wanted it to have that feeling of freshness. And that was the idea of it.
Because it's people coming each week.
Partly because it's people coming each week, but partly because once you start doing it because it's funny, it's almost like you're just trotting it out. I wanted it to have a different sense of almost journal. I wanted it to have that sense of tracking the now.
Yeah.
From the beginning, I always was like, now, what is this thing where this moment? That's the beauty of stand up to me, is that you're so present in it. That's the beautiful part of the medium. And once you take that part out, then it's like, why do you even need the audience? Just tape it and show it to me on, you know what I mean? So I wanted it to be fresh. And that didn't necessarily mean you can't say anything a second time, but it did mean, that, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
But it did mean don't do it just to be funny. Sometimes you have to say something again as a setup. And that is just all that, the repetition there was. So the back mic happened because when people were saying new stuff, I remember like once Julia Sweeney was telling something and offhandedly said, when I was 10 and the house burned down, and then just went, on to something else. I was like, whoa. So really, I was just sort of filling in for the audience.
I see. So it wasn't the Benson interruption.
Famously, when he pitched that, they were like, isn't that Beth Lapides' show? But it was not I think it's sometimes read that way, but it was always me trying to help the audience,
can fill in the blanks of something that was left out of a story.
Because if the audience doesn't understand, if an audience has a question, they can't listen. That's what happens. Can't listen if you're uncertain.
Right. That makes sense.
And if only somebody could have asked me questions. I would always I would always encourage people, get on the back mic for me. I need somebody.
I could have sat 12 feet behind you.
You could have been my wingman.
Okay, so you turned down Oprah at one point?
That is true. God, okay, nobody has asked me that. That's good. I was running for First Lady. You started out as a joke when I did have an act. I was like, I'm running for First Lady. And then it was a follow-up idea which is a real idea. She works really hard, so we should pay her. But if we're going to pay her, we should get to pick her.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pick her. Let's pay her. And the White House is big. And then I thought it would free the president to be a woman if we didn't have to have, a first man. And it would also free the president to be able to be single, which I think we're losing out on a huge, with this sort of, we have such a leaning towards married politicians.
Right.
And partly it's because it's a 2-person job. And if we could have an elected, there's a lot, she does a lot.
Yeah.
Or he will when it's, and then I was like, yes, a man could run and probably win and then they'll have everything. And I had a lot of jokes.
Right.
When I was in the White House and thing, but it was really grounded in this, sexual gendered politics idea.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh my God, Oprah was desperate to get me on. And I was so stupid. I mean, also Oprah wasn't yet like what she really became.
Oh, so when was this that you were campaigning?
This was
to?
92.
Oh,
yeah.
My God, ahead of the time.
You're so old.
No, that's not what I was saying. I was just thinking you were so like ahead of the time.
Yes, I was. And my little complaint to myself is, can't you just get in your time? Why do you always have to be ahead of your time?
Yeah.
And even this project, I thought I'm going to write a book, and I had a book agent. And then the book agent was like, I think I could sell you in an audiobook format. I was like, that sounds like ahead of my time again, though. But,
right.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So this was 92, and actually, and it was very exciting. And I should have said yes, obviously. I had a show that night. I was doing it as a 1-person show, which was a faulty idea. It really was a media campaign.
Uh-huh.
And I was in People, and I did all sorts of media stuff. I went to the convention, and that was the most fun part of it. But because I do shows, I was like, I need to turn it into a show.
Yeah.
And I had a show that night, and how was I going to, anyway, whatever.
So it was her talk show that you turned down?
It was her talk show, yeah. Oh, whatever.
Because to you, was it like, this is just another media appearance and it's not going to be a big deal?
No, I don't know. I didn't have TV. It wasn't as big as it is now.
Right.
I just want to keep saying that.
Yeah.
But I still would have done Oprah.
Right.
And I think there was going to be some other political comedian who I didn't like on. That's just me being judgy and stupid. Really, and also just married to the theater, the idea of theater. Like, I have a show that night. I mean, how can I?
Yeah.
The idea that you would cancel a show. I mean, obviously now it was me being very old, just very.
But it's like
New
people
York.
had tickets. It makes sense. You can't disappoint them.
Yeah, but it was very, like, people all the time cancel theater stuff for film and TV.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just very understood. Like, film or TV, honey, you cancel the show. So, I don't know. I just didn't. But really what was kind of interesting was that when the First Lady campaign ended and I wanted to do UnCabaret again, it was really the right time, because not only then was it my need and the performer's need, but the whole world shifted with that Clinton election. It very much shifted because much of the comedy world at that moment was very us and them. You would go to the clubs and almost all the comedians are liberal, right? So it was just like the man, it was them, we were all mad at them, at them. And then suddenly, like, we were them. And then what do? Then suddenly you're performing your comedy, your material. Suddenly now it has to be self-reflective and, inner looking. And what's wrong? You're the man. So what's up with you? And I remember there were a lot of people would say, like, well, it's kind of like therapy. And I just kept being like, I know. How's that bad? I mean, it was like one of those criticisms that you're like, it is? That's so great. And then, I was like, well, why does she get to decide who's on? I was like, because I made the show. Because you wouldn't let me into your club. That's why. So,
can you talk about the decision to have your work be collaborative versus just featuring you?
yes. Sometimes I think it was, I think of in the book, I also think there's an idea about default decisions. There's some decisions you sort of don't make that sort of you realize after a while, you're like, I guess I did decide not to have children. That wasn't the case for me. I did decide not to have children, but there are some things after, that was like, oh, I guess I did decide to be a collaborative person at heart. I always kept doing some things that were not collaborative, one-person shows or books or this or that, some acting, which is collaborative. Perhaps it had to do with my loneliness, existential loneliness. I mean, not that I was alone, but I just love the feeling of community. I mean, I'm drawn to the idea of community. That's a word that excites me. And I'm drawn to connection. I just love that. And I do think that there is something so exciting about the whole that's greater than the sum of its parts. That sentence, gets me off. I mean, if I hear that sentence, I'm like, oh, now you're talking about language.
And that's really alternative comedy. I think, I think that is a ribbon that runs through it versus traditional comedy.
I think that is one of the things. So many things are different, but I mean, I never wanted it to be a showcase. I always wanted it to, first of all, though, I also wanted the individuals to shine. I hated the feeling of being in an audience at a comedy club, and then you would leave, and there were so many people who had been on, mostly guys, and you'd go, which one of the guys said that thing about that thing? And it was just so interchangeable almost, partly because of the rhythm. Yeah. And one of the things that was so exciting to me was to hear the different rhythms that all the performers had, that you could almost know it was them. I mean, I've heard UnCabaret be edited, audio edited, and from 3 rooms away, just the rhythm of somebody's voice, I could tell that's Rick Overton, or that's Tim Bagley, or that's Taylor Negro. You could just hear. And at one point I just said, well, the rhythm of your voice is the wave your inner truth rides in on. And it was one of those things you say, and then I'm like, whoa, I think that's so true. And sometimes just the way people would talk was so exciting. Patton Oswalt, just the way Patton Oswalt expressed his Patton Oswaldness. And so I wanted every night to, again, be this kind of quilt, that everyone was so individually themselves, but people were free to pick up because it was about the now, people would bring stuff in always, but sometimes somebody said something. Sometimes I would say something at the very beginning, and it would become a thread that would kind of lace through the whole thing. And I found that just so exciting. And the audience was a big part of that community too. If you talk about collaboration, I mean, in all the years of UnCabaret, I can only think of one heckler. I mean, literally
really?
One.
Wow.
In all the years. And I don't mean one bad one. I mean one.
What did that person do? Do you remember?
Yeah, no, but I do remember what she was wearing.
Oh, it was a she. That's surprising.
She, and she had on a blue blazer. It was a very un-Cabaret, garb. It was a boating blazer with big brass buttons and giant shoulder pads. Why I remember this, I don't know, but I do remember that. And there was one performer who came in with her little dog, who I won't name, who was very disruptive. But generally,
the dog was disruptive, or the performer was?
Performer with the dog. That was the combo pack. Yeah,
I just feel like I know who it is, but we won't go there.
You don't.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
right.
I'm sorry. Maybe you do.
Well, we'll talk after.
Off air. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that collaborative part of it, and I think I kept being drawn back to it because I also felt like UnCabaret was kind of an assignment. I felt the group wanted to be together. I felt it needed to be together. I felt I've tried to close UnCabaret many times, and I keep getting sucked back in, and I don't know why, but I do. And
what is this?
I guess I love it. I mean,
what is the status of it now?
Very lively. The status of it now is we're doing hybrid. We're in a hybrid situation. We are keeping the Zooms because as of this date that we are recording, March 4th, I don't know when you're listening to it. This is March 4th, 2022.
Probably Monday.
I know, but in the future.
Right. That's true.
You'll have many listeners all throughout, eons.
In perpetuity.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're doing Zoom shows once a month now, and we're back to live again. I mean, we went back to live, and then we stopped live and went back to 2 Zooms. And I don't know, this month
Tony might give you 40,000 to do it live. So
right.
I would take him up on that.
I'll take 40.
All
I
right.
mean, I probably should negotiate just like Alison should have. But you know what? We're women, and
sometimes we take the first offer because we don't know our worth.
So we're very lively, and I'm starting to think, the band is back, and I feel reinvigorated by it. At the same time, I have a new intern that's starting in a couple of weeks, and I'm praying that she is good because I really do need help because I have a lot of other work, and it's not, at a certain point it becomes like it's not going to become anything else probably. In the early days it was, we're going to make it into a TV show, or it's going to become this, or it's going to become that, and now it is what it is, and it can't be my whole life. So I can't be making posters, Alison, anymore.
It's so interesting to hear you say that. I am feeling there's a lot of things. What am I trying to say? Because I'm all over the place. Let me try to. There's so many things that you're saying where I am just recognizing some realizations I'm having in my own life, and I'm sort of hearing echoes of them in things you're saying, and it's very profound for me. But I'm sort of, having some feelings about trying to figure out some of like the things that I'm working on, and feeling like I put so much energy into this aspect of it and into this aspect of it. And maybe that's not absolutely necessary. Like maybe I don't need to spend so much, this is going to sound so silly, but like I spend so much time tweeting and Instagramming and all of that. And like, maybe that's not absolutely necessary. Maybe it is, but maybe it's not.
But maybe it is. You know what I mean? It's like
that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. So what's that? And I'm always, I go through expansion and contraction ideas as everything that, has a long life does. You expand, you contract. And I'm feeling maybe expansionistic, like it's time to meet some new people. And Zoom was great because we were able to expand to performers in New York. That was really exciting. And some people became part of the family who hadn't really been before. And I love it because it's kind of a talk show, which is my wheelhouse. And I mean, that was part of the back mic too. I mean, I've just always loved conversation. At the heart of UnCab is conversation. And that's why the book, So You Need to Decide, was really an expansion of that. I had a talk show at MTV for a minute that was green light and then lighted for a boys show. Oh. And I had I've done radio shows, but I think from when I was young, the part of stand-up that really excited me wasn't actually the stand-up, but panel. Like when I was little and watching The Tonight Show with my parents, it was really panel that I loved. I mean, I didn't, the stand-up itself. So I love that. And that was part of the back mic too. I just wanted to be in a conversation with people. I just wanted to talk. I love talk.
Right.
And elevating the conversation,
Wait, so I'm, this sounds like a unpleasant topic, but I must ask, what happened with MTV?
Literally, we did the show. I pitched the show. It was very exciting, actually.
And when was this?
This was in the 90s, the great 90s. I don't know which part of the 90s. Okay. It's a big blur of Nirvana. Of Nirvana and girdles as outerwear. I don't know.
It was a good time for music.
And actually, so my agents, like, I had this idea it was called The Couch. And the idea was that none of the guests wouldn't have met each other. I had been on Politically Incorrect, and I always loved the green room there as much as the show. And I was like, I wish I could do a show where we got the green room feeling.
Yeah.
So I came up with this idea that what we were going to do, but you can't replicate it. So I was like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep the guests separate, and also they're going to be booked very specifically so that there's a reason that they're together. And then it's going to be like a party. You know how you have a party and you're like, Andy Dick, I wanted you to meet this guy who just wrote this book. He's the head of the Sierra Club, and he just wrote this book called Act Now, Apologize Later. We're going to talk about apologies. You have so much bad behavior.
Right.
Or, and so it was really booked like that. And it was so it was very specific, and we shot it, and it was exciting, and they loved it. And I was this, it's hard to remember when we used to go around town and run into people, but there will be that day again. And people were like, oh, I keep hearing how great it is. And it was a very exciting show.
How many episodes did you shoot?
We did one. It was greenlit. We did a pilot.
Yeah.
And then it was greenlit. And then, before we went back into production, before it was fully like, but it had been in Variety. Like it was happening. It wasn't like I wasn't dreaming it. And then I got a call on a late Friday afternoon from my agent. You could just hear it, and it's just like, oh God. And then it was like not happening. And then suddenly the Tom Green show was happening.
This hurts my heart. How did you take that?
Badly, very, very badly. It was a dream. It wasn't just a job. It was like a big dream. And I remember just playing I don't know if I've ever played the Rolling Stones before or since. For some reason, we have the Rolling Stones, and I just put Let It Bleed on, like, in repeat play at, like, my poor neighbor's volume. And I would remember getting very hungry, like, 4 hours later. I probably drank. And then I just, kind of went into a downward spiral.
Right.
I don't know. It was horrible. But then, we owned it, and we shopped it, and Bravo almost bought it. And then you're like, and it takes a minute, and then you're like, oh, my life isn't going to go that way. Like, it's just not, there isn't, I don't have 4 more of these in me. I don't have like 10 more great ideas for a talk show, and it's not happening. And I sort of pulled myself out of it by making a 1-person show called Party Pants, the Beth Lapides experience. And from that, it was sort of segments. And I did it at the HBO Workspace. And from that, I got my radio show, and, life goes on. Maybe it was all for the best. The first time I heard somebody say, everything is unfolding in divine and perfect order, I almost threw up. I just got so mad. And then I thought, I think I'm jealous. Like, I think I'm jealous that somebody actually believes that.
Right. That level of trust.
And then I thought, well, if I'm that jealous of it, maybe I could believe it. Like, if you're jealous of what somebody else believes,
you want it.
Is it possible that you want to believe it? And is it possible to believe it? So what I did is I started to say it as a joke in my life. Just every now and then, I just say, ha, 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 everything's unfolding in divine and perfect order. And then one time we were doing UnCab, and it was a night that everything was going wrong. And somebody canceled and somebody else canceled, like on show day, on night of show, and some tech in the club. I don't remember what it was. It was just one thing after another, and it was time to hit the stage, and, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. And I got on stage, and the music's playing, and I sang my Change song. And then the first thing that came out of my mouth was, I don't really know what's going on, but I'm sure everything is unfolding in divine and perfect order. And everybody laughed, and I laughed. And then everything did unfold in divine and perfect order.
You made it happen.
And it was a very miraculous night. And I started to think, like, ugh. And then I start, all those times in your life when you look at the story for a long enough time and you start to think, oh, that sort of seems like that was meant to be. Everything that sort of is hard, you start to see as a challenge. And, ended up going to, my partner is a musician and he had a gig for a while at a Science of Mind church, and we were going to that, and I would go with him because I'm interested and I love him. And then, they have a thing there. So like nothing happens to you. It all happens for you. And I was like, that was another one. I was like, really? But once you start sort of changing your mind, and I think that is the biggest thing. To me, that is one of the things that also drew me to this book. So you need to decide, was I have really decided to change my mind about a lot of things. And those are the biggest decisions I've made. I mean, I've made some 12-step decisions, and I've made these decisions about what I believe, and these big decisions about thinking where, the first time somebody told me it's that your thinking creates your feelings, not the reverse.
Right.
I almost hit them. I was like, that's impossible. No, obviously not.
Yeah.
And then you start experimenting with it. Once you open your mind to what, I could experiment with my thinking, and I could try thinking different things. And once I decided to do that, and I started to see really a revolution in my own life, that I started to think that, changing your mind is the biggest decision that you can make. You decide to think differently. And I didn't have a chapter in the book called Thinking, because I think that might be a little, you can get a little too cerebral about your decision making. But that for me is partly what drove me, because I had seen, what that decision has done for me. And I know that when I'm in trouble now, that it's all in my thinking, and my life is so many miracles have happened in my life that with the idea that a miracle is a shift in perspective. And I do really see every single thing. And I talk about in the book, this idea of regrets or not having regrets, and how people always say, like, they ask celebrities, like, well, what would do you have any regrets? And everybody's like, I don't have any regrets. Everything that happened
for a reason.
Everything's, and I'm like, sure. Well, if you've gotten to the place where people are asking you if you have regrets, of course,
right.
Everything has happened for a reason to get you to this fabulous place. Right. But you can create, and then I remember seeing Bette Midler on The Tonight Show once, and she was like, any regrets? And she was like, I regret everything. I regret every single thing that's ever happened. It was hilarious. The whole audience breathed a sigh of relief. But you can do that for yourself. I mean, you can create a life, because it's the thing that you create is your experience. So, sure, we all want the gifts and prizes, but at the core of it, no matter how, I think we've all had the experience of getting something great, but your experience of it is really awful. And at this and the mirror image of that is something supposedly awful happens, and your experience of it is absolutely miraculous, because you understand that it's a moment. You understand that you don't have full comprehension. Every little thing that happens to us, if we think, this is when I said at the beginning of, a reform know-it-all, because every time something, I'll say it with air quotes, bad happens to you, it's not the whole thing. It's a piece of everything. But, we're not living in a culture where that's easy to always see. Because, as you said, we have to tweet and Instagram and every little bite of moment is something. But anyway, I thought a long answer to whatever your question was.
Yeah.
Oh, what happened with my MTV talk show?
Yeah.
But it got me where I am today. Who knows how bad my life would be if I had gotten that show?
Yeah.
Thank God, Alison, that didn't happen.
I had an epiphany, or what felt like a bit of an epiphany the other night, which I will share, which is I was lying in bed, and all of a sudden I was thinking about the sort of different, like, big kind of pivotal things that have happened in my life. And that when career thing, like, mostly career things, and when I moved to New York, I was a writer at the time. And when I moved to New York, I was freelance. And I remember I would like look on Media Bistro and I would see these various media jobs and I would, and they weren't right for me. It was like, I was a writer, but it would be like copy editing, but I'm like, I can do that, and I would apply for them. And I was always trying to go for these jobs that weren't really perfect. They just were like, I was trying to squeeze myself in. I was trying to convince someone that, and then this, music writer position, and I had written about music. I was always writing about music and features is always what I had done. And this position at Time Out New York opened up, which was like exactly what I had done before. And I was like, oh, that's, I can totally do that. And I interviewed for it and was, they interviewed like everyone in town. So I interviewed for it and then they interviewed like everyone else and then they offered me the job. And I actually was a little bit insulted that they interviewed me and still felt the need to interview everyone else. But someone else was like, you should be flattered. Do you realize how many people they interviewed? And I was like, but that doesn't feel flattering. But anyway, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story was, when I was thinking about it, I was thinking, that job was right for me. And it came, even though I had to put myself out there to get it, it really wasn't hard to get it once I interviewed for it. And then my job on the Adam Carolla show, I just knew that I would be good in that position. And I auditioned and then it was offered to me. And then with my husband, when we fell in love, it was unlike every other relationship I'd had. It was just very obvious that we were right for each other. It was very easy. And I spend some time, these days I feel like I'm sort of I do all this hand wringing of I got to figure out what's my next move? What's my next thing? And I got to will it into existence and I need to figure it out. And I just had the epiphany I had was that's not really how life works. You don't really figure things out. When something is right, it's sort of undeniably right. And yes, I do think I do think this hand wringing and figuring it out, there's a purpose to all that in that it sort of gets you on the right path of maybe thinking or being open or whatever. But things aren't really generated from intense scrutiny. It's more there's, it's a two-way street. Things find you and that it's right because there's an effortlessness to it, I think. And that sort of made me feel a little bit, I found that liberating, that I don't have to figure it all out.
Well, anytime you feel liberated, you hit the vein of gold. Yeah, totally. Well, if I sort of think of it as but you do have to you also do have to stay active in it because you're sort of, so I like to think of it sometimes, I think love the question. If you need to do something else, but you don't know what it is, rather than figuring it out, it's just I wonder what's next.
Right.
Just be in wonder, which is actually healthy, and you're open, but not open to everything. And, you're looking and you're available. You continue to make yourself available in a certain energetic way. I'm available for the new thing.
Right.
I'm wondering what it is. And I'm going to try this. This might be it. Well, I wonder if this is it. What about this thing over here? I mean, there's nothing wrong. I mean, it's all an experiment. I mean,
yeah,
it's all an experiment. I mean, we're here to experience and experiment and, and through that to kind of, I don't know what we're here for, to experience life and be life and, have our, but you want to always be learning. So you can't always exactly know what the next thing is because it's something a little new, usually.
You know what is a new thing that I think you should experience? And I don't know, Beth, you might not be aware that you're in the presence of the queen of segues. I mean, now you're probably well aware of it. But Tony, I had told you to let her know ahead of time that I was the queen of segues. I think you forgot.
Oh,
yeah.
Boy.
I just picked that up.
Yeah, I mean, I never assume I have to tell anyone because it's pretty obvious.
I know, but you're right. Okay. So anyway, look, you guys, everyone knows about the Ring video doorbell, but did you know that Ring makes an award-winning alarm? You probably, I feel like maybe you do, because we have the Ring alarm, and I've talked extensively on past shows about how when we moved into this house, my husband wanted to get an alarm system, and I did not really want to go through the whole thing of like subscribing to one of those services where the people come out and they set it up. And I felt like that is going to be a whole thing. And then I found out that Ring, and I was very familiar with Ring because we had the Ring video doorbell, and I can't imagine life without the Ring video doorbell. I didn't realize they had an alarm at the time. So then I found out they do. And I was like, well, I love Ring. Let's get the Ring alarm. And we got it and we loved it. And I love that you can install it yourself and then you feel super protected with it. And it's great. Well, now they have come out with something more, and it is the Ring Alarm Pro. So when it comes to protecting your home, we've gone pro with Ring Alarm Pro. So Ring Alarm Pro helps protect my entire home and the Wi-Fi it runs on. With Ring Alarm Pro, Ring has combined a home security system and a Wi-Fi router. So this thing protects your home and secures your network. It's a game changer for home security, which is why CNET called it a giant leap for home security. So now I have the whole home security of Ring Alarm that I love, plus a secure Wi-Fi network with a consistently strong signal across my home. And I don't know how you guys are, but so when we moved into this house, Daniel's dream was to have a full smart home with like everything on the network and blah, blah, blah. And I love Daniel and I love this home. I did not share the desire to have everything, like operatable from the phone. Although I will admit it is pretty nice to be able to like adjust everything just from, an app. But yeah, so we need our Wi-Fi protected. And it's pretty great. And we are going to be going on vacation. I'm not going to tell you when, and I'm not going to tell you where, because I don't trust any of you. I'm just kidding. I trust all of you. But yeah, we're heading out of town sometime in the next year. And I feel extra secure knowing that we have the Ring Alarm Pro protecting our entire home, and protecting our Wi-Fi, and knowing that, we can, check in on it while we're gone, and knowing that with the Ring Protect Pro subscription, we'll get professional monitoring for ultimate peace of mind. There's no long-term commitments. And if anything happens, professional monitoring will call us and we can request emergency services. And best of all, Ring Protect Pro is an amazing deal. It's true. Ring has an award-winning alarm, and to protect my home, I've gone pro with Ring Alarm Pro. To learn more, go to ring.com/best friend. That's ring.com/best friend. I also want to tell you guys about Switchcraft. Switchcraft is a super fun match 3 game that you can play right on your smartphone. Now you might be thinking, match 3 game. I've played those, and yes, you probably have, but this one is an entirely new take on a match 3 game, because the writers of Switchcraft are super crafty, super clever, creative writer people who I think have a background in TV. And so they've created a whole engrossing world that involves witchcraft. Get it? Switchcraft, witchcraft, wizards. There's a whole storyline there. So you become engrossed in the story. And then to go from like one level to the next, there's these really clever match 3 games. So it's more than just a puzzle. Can you tell I do not do much gaming, if you will, but I do love this game. So Switchcraft is a brand new take on match 3 games. As you play, you unlock pieces of a beautiful, magical, and gripping graphic novel. So in Switchcraft, you take on the role of a witch at Pendle Hill, the world's top academy of witchcraft. So whatever academy of witchcraft you were thinking of applying to, I hope you'll apply to Pendle Hill. It's the world's top academy. Play your way through hundreds of enchanting match 3 levels, revealing a dark and winding mystery story. And I did say winding. It all starts with the disappearance of your best friend. Now it's up to you to unravel the mystery of her disappearance using your magical match 3 skills. Along the way, you'll find unique characters, a gripping story, and even a little romance. The best part is that your choices in the game determine the outcome of the story, so you're in the driver's seat. Download Switchcraft for free and unlock the magical mystery. It's super fun. And you know me, I love fun. And I had fun playing it. And I will continue to have fun because I'm not at the end yet. Okay. And we are back. I think it is time to do some Just Me or Everyone. So this is a segment where we discuss, oftentimes we take listener suggestions of things. People tweet them to us and they wonder, is it just me or is it everyone who does this particular thing? But today we're going to find out if Beth has any Just Me or Everyone's. Beth, do you have a Just Me or Everyone?
I do. I have one. And I have to say, when you sent me the email about it and it was like, do you count, you might like count or something. I was like, oh, I do that. But I'll come up with something that wasn't in the email.
Okay, great.
So,
we have a little song. So
okay.
Hang on second. Okay.
Okay. I have one.
Is it just me or everyone?
All right.
That's so cute.
Thank you.
All right. I don't even quite know how to say this. Is it just me or is it everyone who likes to carry a lot of extra keys around?
Oh.
I think it is just me.
It's not just you.
It's not?
I don't. I like to carry the minimum number of keys, the maximum number of like everything else, but keys I find are so heavy that if I can get away with like 2 keys on my keychain, I will. But I know many people who have just a
I have so many extra keys, and my best friend is like, my other best friend besides you.
Thank you.
Is always like, it's not chic, it's not right, pare down. And so I sometimes do it just because I'm like, she's right, Jamie's right. And then I'll take it down. I feel so naked and I feel so vulnerable. I start putting them back, slowly back. And also I have a little bit like, well, LA could be occupied at any time. And then if I don't have the New York keys and I've got to go to the airport and get to New York, then how am I going to get into the house in New York if and I have truly a giant mound of keys that I just keep out. It's like a sculpture of keys people have given me over the years. I always say, if you want to show me that you love me, just give me your key.
Wait, who are we getting occupied by?
Anyone. It's just anyone. If
sure.
I don't know,
the shit goes
if the
down.
Handmaid's Tale happens just all of a sudden one afternoon without, enough warning.
Right. Because that is how it happens. Yeah.
I want to have places to go.
Right.
And finally, so the other night I went to, the YouTube theater to see, my friend Jamie Bridgers give my friend Phoebe Bridgers, her daughter, an award.
Phoebe Bridgers, who's featured in the audiobook.
In the book, right. And so is Jamie. And Jamie's the one who's always saying, get rid of the keys. So I was like 2 keys. I'm just taking the house and the car. And, I got to the check-in. They were like, you can't bring mace into the venue. I was like, all right, the mace, that's part of the keychain. There's also the whistle.
Yeah.
The mace. So anyway, they took my mace. I have other mace though, if anybody's listening.
Spare
I've
mace.
got backup
Yeah.
mace. That's it. And I'm always looking for them. I mean, I really panic. Like, where are my keys? They're in your pocket. They're in your hand, but it doesn't feel like enough. I need the weight. It's like, what I think it is? I think it's a weighted blanket for
keys.
your car. Yeah.
Yes. This makes sense.
Yeah.
You cannot.
I don't know. Is that just me or is that everyone?
It's not everyone.
With some people.
Yeah, it's some people. Have you seen Fun Home?
Yes.
There's that whole song about a ring of keys, which makes me.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, and it makes it sound like this is not what you're saying, but I think that it's like an iconic like lesbian thing is to carry a ring of keys.
Jamie is always saying, I wasn't going to bring that up. She's always saying, Beth.
Like you might be sending a signal with your keys.
Yes.
Tony. Yeah. Tony, how many? I don't think I've seen you with tons of keys.
Not a lot of keys. There's definitely more than I need. I think I did realize recently there's one on my keychain that I literally don't know what it's for.
Yeah.
That's the worst because then you're so afraid of taking. That's even worse than any other one to take off.
Yeah.
Right. Because what if suddenly you remember it and you need it?
Yeah. I don't know that I like carrying extra keys necessarily. Although I do. What you were saying about the weight of them or something, it is kind of maybe like an OCD thing because I will, like if I'm on tour, I I don't need my keys at all. Like getting off and on a bus, there's usually like a code to get on the bus and stuff. But I will still carry my keys mostly because I'm so used to it. But then also I'll put like my tour pass on my keys instead of wearing it somewhere else. So then it also kind of gives me an excuse to have my keys because then my pass is on my keys.
There you go. Well, also I love sort of as long as you're talking about music, the jingle jangle, if you will, of like if I take a walk, just having the keys be like,
yeah,
it's kind of like a rhythm section. Right. It's like you have a rhythm section with you at all times.
It is really weird on the, once every 4-year family trip that we take when I realize that, okay, so Daniel has his house keys, so I don't need to bring mine. But then I feel sort of naked without my house keys. And then I think, but what if something, and I can't imagine what circumstance would happen that would create me returning home separately from him and needing my keys. Something bad.
Yeah, you don't want to think about what that would be. That's not like, oh, you got cast in a major motion picture and you need to return home.
My God, why am I not prepared for that eventuality, though? That could happen.
Oh,
my God.
Be prepared for having to come home for a great job opportunity.
I used to, back when I was younger and more castable in things, I would travel with like my, HD makeup and super hydraulic bras and just my whole everything everywhere, just in case I needed to do a TV appearance because who knows? And now I'm like, I haven't put on that bra in a really long time. I don't know if I ever will again.
Wow. Yeah. I want to hear more about that bra.
I mean, it was just a Victoria's Secret padded underwire bra that, did more for my bosoms than my regular.
Than your sports bra.
Yes. Exactly.
I sometimes, I enjoy wearing the full lingerie getup. I wear fishnets every day.
You do?
Mm-hmm, I have one right now.
Oh my God. Look at that. YouTube.com/Alison Rosen. Now, are these, do they come up to your waist or is this like a garter situation?
No, they do come up to my waist.
Okay.
But they're seamed and,
like back seam?
Yeah.
Who makes them?
Capizio.
Really? I used to, back when I played in a band, I used to always want fishnets with a back seam and I couldn't find them. So I would wear back seam pantyhose and fishnets. I mean, if that is not a recipe for, that's a yeast infection is what that is.
Well, these are Capizio and they last they're very strong. I mean, they're really made for dancing. And I do feel, there's one little phrase that I really helps me get through the day, which is dance with the chaos.
I like that.
And it does slightly remind me in the mess of it all, like, look, you think it's all supposed to make sense. You think it's supposed to be ordered. You're just dancing. Dance with the chaos, honey. Dance with your keys. So anyway.
And then do you have a hey, go fuck yourself?
I do. That was a little hard to decide on because let's face it, how do you not do Putin today?
Right.
And then there's all the legislations against, trans kids and outlawing contraception. But I thought, how do you choose between that? And I thought there's something that unites all this that I think I can do a hey, go fuck yourself on, which is the people who go through red lights knowingly.
Yes.
I think all those people all go through red lights on purpose because they don't think the red light is for them. And they don't care if they're going to kill someone in the intersection. There are people going in LA like 3 cars into a red light. Like, okay, it's not even cuspy. Okay, fine. It's the orange light turning into the red light. Fine. It's on a cusp. You get a pass. But the next car and then the next car, Alison, that third car that's going through a red light because they don't think it's for them. And there's so many accidents and it makes me so mad. I'm the most, by the way, pussy driver. I'm going too slow. I'm in the right, but I know this about myself, so I'm in the right-hand lane. I'm getting out of your way. I'm trying to keep to myself. I'm not slow poking in front of the fast lane. Don't you go through the red light. Go fuck yourself.
Hey, go fuck yourself.
Beth, it has been such delight getting to know you, having you on the
Likewise.
show. Thank you so much. Tell everyone where they can find you, where they can find the book. Everyone go listen to So You Need to Decide. It is a very joyful and helpful and funny listen, I think.
Oh, that's very nice. I love all those three things: joyful, helpful, and funny. That makes me so happy. And how would you listen to it? You could go to anywhere that your audiobooks are. Audible is one place people like to go, and you can use your monthly Audible credit on it. You can also easily gift it to people on Audible. You can also get it on just your regular Amazon. You can get it on Apple Books, for instance, if you're an Apple Books person. At bethlapides.com, I do have a page that just has all the links to everything. I'm on all the socials as Beth Lapides. On Instagram, there's an underscore between Beth and Lapides. Don't let that confuse you.
Don't be scared away by the underscore, you guys.
Don't be scared away by that underscore. And Twitter and UnCabaret is in all those places too. And UnCabaret shows are happening. And this book is really an outpouring of UnCabaret energy. So, yeah, that's where you can find it.
Yeah, that sounds
on
good.
all those places.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You guys, if you enjoy what you're hearing, and even if you don't, please make sure you're subscribed. Leave us a nice comment on Apple Podcasts. Helps out the show. And rate us 5 stars. So leave us the nice comment because we read those. We read them on the show.
Leave her the nice comments.
Yes.
And, I mean, it's so important to rate and review. Oh my God.
Thank you. And wherever you're listening now, I think you can rate it. They've added that functionality. So rate the show. Leave us the nice comments. Listen to my other podcast, Childish and Upwardly Weekly. I have now launched a newsletter. I'm getting into the newsletter game, you guys.
Substack?
I'm doing review right now, which is REVUE, because it's got this integration with Twitter, but I'm not loving the editor, the soft. I'm not loving it. So I think I'm going to switch to Substack actually, because that one seems to look better. So by the time they hear this, it might actually be Substack. So there you go. Yeah. So sign up for that. Wherever you sign up for it, you'll get it the same place because I can import and stuff. Sign up for that on my social media. I posted a way to sign up. So follow me on social media at Alison Rosen. Also, I'm on Patreon, patreon.com/Alison Rosen.
Patreon.
Tony, what about you?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at
Tony Paxton.
and my podcast Bizarre Albums every Tuesday. Yeah, that's it for this week.
All right. Thank you.
Wow. If I come on again, will you make one of those stings with my name? Beth Lapides.
Of course.
I want that.
Of course. We have Jackie who sang that coming on Monday. We should just ask her, just sing it just in case.
Oh, yeah.
On Monday, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. It's so much fun. You're a delight.
Oh, thank you. Listeners, thank you for listening. I love you. You matter. Goodbye.
Hey, do you know about the Alison Rosen show? We had a good time